Oops. All right, let me move my face. There we go. Good morning, everybody. So my name is Samantha Mirabal. I'm with Melco's application team, and today's our Design Shop Talk to see what questions you might have to get them answered. If you have questions while we're live, both on Facebook and YouTube, and it does look like both platforms are up. I should move my face again. I'm sorry. I just saw the little tag over my head. Anyway, if you have questions while we're live, please type them in on the comments. Don't send them privately. I don't see that. So just type them in on either on the feed, both in Facebook and YouTube, and I should see them. I'm going to go ahead and get started with the questions that were sent in ahead of time, and we'll kind of go from there. All right. So please review the knockdown stitch process. I've done it before, but I'll be sewing lots of names for Christmas stockings soon. Awesome. Yes, it's coming into that season. So that's for another example. All right, let's create a primer stitch. Okay, so that other term is not one I'm able to use, but it's all good. So let's see, what font do we want? I'm going to do Athletic Script because I think it's pretty. I'm going to type my name. All right, and then center it because that's just a good practice to get into. And let's see, how big do I want it? Let's say 5 inches wide. This is where you kind of need to know what you're going on and what the size is of how big you want your text, right? So where's my chat? I don't see it. No one's chatted yet, so we're good. Okay, so I typed in my name. Let's say you want it to be 5 inches. How do you change the size? Well, you can drag it around. If you know an exact dimension, down here you have this W and the H. See those? So I can go and say I want it to be 5 inches wide. Poof. All right. So I've got some text, but now we need that underlay. So first off, why do you want kind of that global underlay underneath there sewn? A few reasons might be, if you're sewing on stockings, imagine the fur. Have you ever sewn on a towel or on a stocking and you've noticed kind of the fluff eating your text where you can barely see it because it's kind of puffing around it and covering it up? A way you can get rid of that is if you sew basically a open fill underneath it. What does that do? It holds it all down so that that fuzz can't come around and encroach on your text. Okay, so how do we create that? Select our text that we want it around, or it could be a design. It doesn't have to be text, but in this case, we're doing this on a stocking, or that's what we're setting it up for. So object, generate basting or primer. I want it to be a primer stitch. Okay, the primer stitch, it's going to sculpt it around. I'm just going to accept the defaults and say okay, and let's give that another color. There. All right, let me make it a color you can actually see. There. All right, so what color do you want that to be? How I prefer to do it is I make it the color of the garment. So if I'm sewing on a white cuff, a white fuzz, I'm going to make that white, which is why I instantly went there because most stockings have a white thing. If you zoom in and look at it, you'll see it's just an open fill. It's a fill with a stitch direction going one way and then a fill with it going 90 degrees from that. All right, so it's as simple as that. Now let's say you like it closer to it. So this was a default to 50. If I delete that and again go object, generate primer and go to primer, let's make 20 points and say okay. That just sculpts it closer. So the smaller the number, the closer it gets to the text, the larger the number, the further away. What number is good? It's a personal preference. So there is a default. It's a default because lots of people like that setting. It's what looks good to you. I might like something different. Person down the street might like something different. It's cool. That's kind of what makes us all unique, right? So just play around with it. And, there it is. It's that simple to do. This can go around designs too. So let's say not only do I want that, I'm going to go grab a heart from over here from this other example. Copy just to show you. All right, let's go put it by my name. And let's not make it so obnoxiously large. Okay. Let's say that's what we want to go a primer stitch around. If I select everything, so not just the text, but the whole design, do the same thing. Generate primer, go to primer, say okay. It includes an outline around the heart. Okay, So it's super easy to use. It's fast. And you can just accept the defaults, move along. If you want that cross-hatch pattern wider, make your densities larger. If you want it closer together, make them smaller. So it's very easy to use, quick and easy, which don't we all love that? All right. So hopefully that helps with that one. I have a new Bravo and Pro software. I can't send the design directly to the machine from the design shop. Am I missing something? Nope, that is not a feature available with Bravo platform. The EMT16s, the XTSs, the EMT16 Plus, all of that, all the non-Bravo line, they all do that feature. The Bravo line, that's not a feature available. This one, I could not get it to duplicate. So I couldn't figure out what's going on here. So if you have an example that you can send us over to applications@Melco, that would be cool. But I went and every time I open a DST, DST files, the tie-off stitch it. All right, so someone typed in a comment. Sorry, I'm reading and then typing without you guys knowing what I'm answering. Every time I open a DST file in DesignShop, it tells me there's a tie-off stitch missing that needs to be added. Is this a bug? No, it's not a bug. The design checker works on wireframes only. So if it's a DST file, that's an expanded stitch type. So it's whatever, it doesn't apply. So you would have to look at the actual file and look for the tie-in and tie-outs yourself. What does that mean? It means you literally would come in and look for the stitch that looks like a tie-off stitch on whatever it is and make sure it's there if you want to check for them. So it's just how it works. What the design checker is doing is it's looking at the wireframes and the properties and it's checking those against good practices. So a DST file has no wireframes. It's just coordinates. It's just stitch locations. Good morning, Lorena. 55 at 8 a.m. in Alaska. 55, that must be nice and warm. I can tell it's a lot warmer than that here. So Rudy, I hope that helps. All right, so the other question we had was, hey, I'm using, my design checker is telling me I don't have tie-in and tie-offs and lettering of a cap. So it's a true type font and it looks fine. All right. I couldn't get it to duplicate because if you look here, this is a Smoothie Sans, it's a true type font, and I go into the properties, make sure my tie-in and tie-offs are set appropriately. Okay, so yes, I have them only when necessary. This auto trim is small. If it's large, it's not going to do a night. It's not going to do tie-in, things like that. So I have this small, it's all set up right. I changed these to, where is it? To a style 5 because style 5 is really easy for me to show you guys. It's easy to see. See these X's all over the places. This is a tie off style 5. So that's why I put it there, just so I could see the knots easily. So there on each of these letters, there's a tie off stitch. So if you're concerned, you can always zoom in at where a letter ends and look. A style 1 knot, and I keep on clicking on the wrong one, is a little less visible. It's there. Oops. Boy, me and my mouse are not getting along today. I'm sorry. Let's try that again. So I recognize them because I know what I'm looking for, but a style 1 knot, it's more in line. So it's this thing right here. That is a style 1 tie off. So it's just more in line with stuff. So because I know what I'm looking for, I can see them. But if you're not sure, you can always set it to a style 5. Check it because you can't miss them. They're big old X's everywhere. And then go, yeah, the knots are there. Okay? And again, I call them knots. Nate and I just had this discussion. Tie-offs. Yeah, like I said, if it's all set up right, the knots should be there. So you can check the file manually, just zooming in on the area and look for it. If they're there, it's going to be fine. My design shop is opening in light, and I have all the software and serial numbers. How do I fix it? You can call Melco or you can email. There's a specific email for activations. I think it might be activation@melco.com. I'm not 100% sure. Hopefully someone will type it in for you. If all else fails, you can email service@melco.com with your info and serial number and that you need it reset, and they can reset it for you so that you can then go and just reactivate the software. This one was typed in this morning and I found it fun, so I went ahead and made examples. So this was, can we do a tutorial on sketch fill on shapes and lettering? I know it's changes in density, but it's nice to have a DesignShop tutorial. So we did get you the link to the license activation. So there's that email that you can send a note to, and they'll get that straightened out for you. So let's go look at how to do a sketch fill. All right, so where is DesignShop? There we go. All right, so this is this big old thing I opened earlier. All right, so I figured I would do this a whole bunch of different ways and show you how I created this, just as a demo of some of the things that you might not realize. So first off, I'm going to show you how I created this. So I went and created some text, made it rounded sans, and typed it back. I actually started with school, but that's all right. So a few fun things to show you that I wanted to point out. I'm going to copy and paste that, change this to school, and I'm not going to do the whole thing. I just want to show you a few things, and then we'll keep on moving on to the actual question. All right, so I got back school. Now, this one I wanted to curve it, so I'm going to move them over here just to show you. All right, so I'm going to come over here and change it to an arc. All right, so from here you can move individual letters around by clicking on the box and moving them around. Another thing that if you've not done this before, it's kind of fun. You can scale each letter individually, larger or smaller. So if I click on the box, you see there's now the X, there's a box around it. So I can use that to scale letters up. Okay, that's a little ridiculous, but you get the idea. Now, what if I want to lower this below the baseline? Notice if I click it and try to move it, so click on it, left click and drag, it's holding it along that baseline, but I want it to come down lower. So I'm going to hold the control key, and that allows me to drop it below the baseline or above it. So now I can have that kind of like a drop case. Same with this letter. If I click on it, hold my control key, now I can lower it. And then now when I left click and drag. So that's just done by holding the control key. Now I made these too big for what I wanted it to look like, but anyway. So select the letter by clicking on the box, then I can scale it. Hold the control key, left click and drag allows me to move it up. All right, and then that arc is a little bit too aggressive, so let's move that. All right. Anyway, so I created my text and I moved it around until I was happy with it. So that's created this. This is just bean stitches I drew on there because I felt like it. So what can we do with this? Now, there is a question coming up asking about the auto split. So I did go ahead and click on that. Good morning, Georgia. So if we go into the properties, you'll notice down under top stitching, right here, there's these presets. And there's this new one, Common Auto Split. I'm totally digging it. So what's the difference? Auto Split, it's just where is it putting the split line. The Common Auto Split is putting it down the center of an item. Okay, so it's putting it down the center here. The regular auto, I don't honestly know where it puts it. It seems to be random. I could decode it through this, but I'm really digging the center auto split. So that's what the common auto is. All right. So how can we then take this design and get it a more sketched look? So let's start with just selecting the text, going into the properties, and I'm going to change it to a flat fill. Okay, so flat fill just makes it flat. Now from here, I can then say, all right, under top stitching, change it to a decorative. This is one way, and you can pick different patterns. Okay, so let's say I want a geometric pattern to it. What if I don't want a weird pattern? I just want kind of an open, straight fill. Well, in that case, I can tell it to be a fill and change this to, I don't know, 15. And I'm going to turn on Trapunto and Trace Border. And then I'm also going to go into the underlay and turn off all my underlay. All right, so what did that just do? Well, let's go look at it. Let's make it bigger to make it a little more obvious. There, cool. All right, so now I've got kind of a sketched look to this, you know, chalkboard look. Well, you can also go into the effects and do custom densities. So this is fun. All right, I find lots of this stuff fun. I get laughed at. And then I always like to do auto apply when I'm playing with this, because look, you can sit here and move these around, add points, try reverse. I literally just play with it until I find something that I like and go, oh, all right, that's cool. Well, then I can copy it to clipboard, and now I can apply it to other ones. Now, of course, this changed the size because I did it on one that was a bigger letter, so, you know, it's going to change it for me. But I can apply that same settings that I ended up liking to the other letters. Well, what if I want to just do each letter individually? Something different, right? So this is just how do we get a more open fill look. All right, so first off, again, I'm going to go to my lettering of the word school, change it to a flat fill. Why am I changing it to a flat fill? Because when I do these things like this, where I'm trying to get this type of look of kind of a sketched fill, I don't want splices, you know, along all these areas with A. I just want it to go complete, which is why I'm changing it to a flat fill. So from here, I can go again to this and go, all right, let's do decorative. All right, I'll leave that one. I'm going to change this one to each letter. I'm clicking on that X, and now I can change the pattern. Let's do the H as something else. Decorative. How about, I already did that one. Squares. All right. Don't forget you have these here. So you can always change the spacing if you want them. Say I want them smaller and closer together. You know, you can always play with them, with those percentages to get a different look to it. But you literally can go through here and do all kinds of stuff. Lots of options for you available. Okay. All right. So that's working with a font. All right. Well, the other way you can deal with this is we can take the whole thing and convert it to vector. Right click, operations, convert to vector. All right. That's how I created this up here. So these are all vectors. Why would I do that? So you can get a little bit more control of things like I did on this O here. Notice this O has this interesting warp effect. Same with this heart. It's got this warp. So how did I create those? So let's just create one. So I'm going to select that. Actually, let's just do that one again. So I'm going to select that O. I'm going to give it a stitch direction. And now I'm going to go change it to, change its properties. So double click on it, turn off auto, go to decorative, and let's make it a color we can actually see. Okay, so I've got that, but I want more. I want to do something, make it look a little more distorted. So again, go into effects, I can do radial out and hit apply. And I can play with this to get it to look, see, now it looks almost like a sphere, like an eyeball. It's kind of creepy if I think about it as an eyeball, but so that's kind of fun. Other things you can do is this heart. So notice this heart is kind of twisted. So how did I do that? All right, I'm gonna move it and take my heart just so we can recreate it. So I got my vector. I'm gonna add a curved stitch direction. So to get to a curved stitch direction, you hold this guy down and you come over here to this thing, insert curved direction line, right there. All right, so I'll be honest, I just guess. Cool, I like that. All right, and then I'm gonna go into its properties. Turn off auto, let's make that 20, and let's get rid of the underlay. I see the typed in question, I just want to finish this example. And let's make it red. Ooh, all right, so what if you want a kind of messy look? So you can leave it like that. I want to do trapunto and I want to trace the border because I want a clean edge around there. So now the stitches are kind of curved, but now let's give it a 3D look by applying that effect. So I can come over here and say radial out. And you can see it kind of warps the stitches around. And I can move where it's doing it from and get different looks to it. Okay, you can also apply your density effects. Again, just to give it a neater, different look, right? And you can try one of these. So one of the things I always like to remind folks is don't be scared to play with it. There's so many things that I figured out how to do literally just by playing with it and going, I wonder what this does. Don't be scared of it. Try it. It's fun. Okay, so you can create all kinds of neat stuff. So that's kind of how I would go about sketched fills, like this one up here. So I didn't go over how I created this guy. So let's just do that. I've got my bee down here. I gave it a straight stitch direction. Double click to go into its properties. And one thing that I like to do is copy properties to clipboard once I'm happy with stuff, right? Otherwise, all these changes I keep on making, you have to keep on redoing them, and that gets old. At least it does for me. All right, so that's just a straight fill, but now let's give it kind of a little more random look by putting this guy on here, and let's do exponential. Nah, let's do a wave and play with it. So literally that's all I did with this, is I moved these around looking at it. Yeah, I like that. So right now I'm going to copy it to right this button right here, copies it to clipboard. So now when I go to the next letter, I can apply my stitch direction to that shape and just say paste properties. And the same thing I did here now applies to that letter. So it's a time savings tip, if you will. Same with this guy. Click, give it a stitch direction, paste. Click on that one, give it a stitch direction, and right here, paste properties. So anyway, I've drawn lots of goofy things here for you. So that is how I would suggest doing stitch fill, like that sketchy look, sketched look, whether you want it to be straight lines, whether you want it to be pattern fills like this, you want to warp it. That's the fun part. You get to decide what looks good to you. How do you want to put art into it? All right, so let's see. We have a few typed in questions. Let me jump to those. Let me make sure I didn't miss any. All right, got Rudy's. All right, I normally do caps, but I'm ready to go on to garments. Is there a cutaway stabilizer that's best for finishing for t-shirts, polos, and light cotton? There is about a gazillion stabilizers on the market. When I started off, I bought pretty much one of everything. Guess what? I still own one of everything because I really gravitated to liking just a few things. So you'll find everyone likes stuff a little bit different. I'll tell you what I like. So let's see, things I like. The 3.1 stabilizer for most polos is by far my absolute favorite. It's a 3.1 cutaway, super hefty. When it's nice, it's a really good stabilizer. When it washes, it kind of fuzzes up, so it's not quite, it's a little bit soft. So I've noticed our uniform shop in town that does all the uniforms for the shirts, or for the schools, it's the same stabilizer they use. So it's just a really nice heavy stabilizer. It holds the stitches well. So I tend to use that for most polos. Now when you go into performance wear, it's kind of heavy. So if you go to something really lightweight and you have that on there, you can see the what I call a badge effect. So you can see that cutout of the stabilizer kind of just hanging out there being obnoxious. So for the performance wear or the super lightweight stuff, I tend to use either the Cut Performance or the Weblon No-Show Mesh. The Cut Performance is the newer material. Both of them are great. I still have a ton of the Weblon, so I use that a lot. It's, like I said, I like them both. So I tend to use 2 layers of one of those with a spray adhesive to hold it because that material tends to move around a lot. And that's all I use. I use 2 stabilizers for shirts. It's either 3.1 ounce stabilizer or the Weblon or Cut Performance. So depending on the material, I'll also use a topper. So the topper would be that kind of water soluble stabilizer that it helps hold the stitches up on top of the material, so it cleans up edges and stops it from sinking in. So water soluble topper is always a good thing to use. We do have an event coming up on the 17th, I think. Yeah, it's all about stabilizers, so they're going to have a big discussion going over all the stabilizers, so you can check that out. It'll be on Facebook and YouTube as well, I believe. Facebook for sure, and I'm pretty sure YouTube. So be sure to check that out. All right, so hopefully that helped. I think there was another question typed in. Let me find it. Hi, Rob. How do you hoop a dress collar to add the Okay, so how do you hoop the dress collar? All right, so last week we talked about adding how you set up a file to put initials on a collar of a man's shirt, I assume, that the collar. So how do you hoop that? You get creative. So I'll tell you what I would do. I'd grab my Mighty Hoop, grab my 3.1 ounce or Weblon, whichever stabilizer I was really in the mood for. Depending on the thickness of the collar and how stiff it is, you might be able to get away with tearaway. I'll be honest though, I have a very strong aversion to tearaway on any garments, so I tend to avoid it like the plague and just use cutaway. But that's just because I want it to stay looking beautiful forever or as long as possible, and I'd rather the garment fall apart before the stitching falls apart. So I tend to use cutaway just as that extra security, if you will. Anyway, so I would take the shirt and your stabilizer and a hoop, spread it out so that let's see if I can draw it up here rather than waving my fingers around. Let's see, where's a hoop? All right, so you'd have your collar, and I'm trying to imagine how it would be, whatever. And let's say that's your shirt going off into outer space. Cancel. So I literally would hoop it however you need to get it to where you've got enough space to embroider on your collar. So it's basically floating. You'll have some of it hooped and the rest floating. So you're going to use either pins or a spray adhesive to hold the rest. You can even, if you plan out how you're going to do it with laser alignment, you can even plan out a basting stitch to hold it down. Personally, I don't bother with that when I do these sorts of projects. I just hoop it the best I can with it floating out, use a spray adhesive to hold it in place, and then make sure I don't have anything caught up under the hoop when I go to sew it. Do my laser alignment, and then, it's usually, especially since you're just doing 3 little initials, it'll be fast. Okay? But that's how I do it. And I would use the Mighty Hoop just because it's quick and easy, since you have that one. All right. Let's see. Hopefully that helps. All right, we did a sketch tutorial, and it sounds like you like that, so yay. And I did talk about the auto split. Oh, so what other new things were added to DesignShop? I copied from the manual. So if you go to DesignShop, the manual, so let me show you how to get there, since I assume people know this stuff, and then I get reminded later that he assumes stuff. All right, so if you go to melco-service.com, you click on DesignShop, and if you click on the manual, it'll pull up the manual. So what's neat about the manual is right up here, maybe, I was already there. All right, so what's new in DesignShop 11? So here's where it will tell you what things have been added for the version that you're looking at, okay? So they did a lot of graphic improvements, so you can read through these. But yeah, there's been a bunch of improvements there. Now, as far the auto split, the common auto split was added, and there's some new marrow borders, which are really nice. So if you remember on the marrow borders, when I was showing you those in the past, when you got to corners, you had to kind of break things up. So where are they? Faux, there we go. Where's the Is that the new ones? I think the old ones are gone. Yeah, so they've all been corrected. So remember when you did these before, the corners were weird. Well, now they've all been adjusted and updated some so that the corners are nice and easy without having to split the element. So we did get you a link to all the updates so you can see those. All right, but yeah, this is rather in the past, you'd have to come over here, select this, split element at selected points, and then kind of move things around to get it to lay clean. Now these foam arrows, just pop them on and you're good to go. They're beautiful. All right. So, and then the auto split, which I showed you. Let's see, what else do we have? We talked about that. We did that. Again, I do not understand this one because I could not get it. So I'm having problems selecting alphabet letters that I digitized by using the select function under edit. So that's the part I don't understand. So whatever font you digitized, so someone digitized this, not me, but to select it, you would go through and just click on the X for each letter that you want to select. Selecting it here, it's not gonna, this is not doing that. So these options here are more going through and selecting same types of things. So what does that mean? So if I have multiple lines of text, so I want to select all the text in this file, right, to make global changes. I want to change all the properties at once. Well, I can select one and then I can go edit, select same type, and it will select all the lettering in the file will be updated or selected. So now I can go change the properties all at once. You know, so there's that. I'm trying to think what else. But if you're trying to select individual letters, you click them on by selecting the object and then each letter individually. So again, I could not duplicate or figure out what that question was. So if you can give me a little more details or send it to applications@Melco and we'll try to get you a better answer. But I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't get it to figure out there. You know, if you have editor, you should be able to select everything. So no, you shouldn't need to upgrade. These were the DS updates. All right, those were all the questions I had ahead of time. Trying to see if I missed anything in the comments. Give me one sec to scroll through. Oh, adhesive spray. I don't have it in here. There's a bunch that you can get. Let's see, what are some ones? There's the Gunnold makes one. It's the K100. There's Odif makes one. That's the 505 spray adhesive. Those are the two I use the most. I'll be honest, I use the 505 by Odif the most. It's a little more expensive, but I just really like it. I was turned on to it by my quilting group for basting quilts. I like it a lot. One thing I will caution, if you're going to use spray adhesives, the mist travels a lot more than you would imagine. So do you want to add sticky stuff to your machine parts that are trying to move? No. So if you're going to spray adhesive, don't spray it near your machines. We have a box in our area where everything that we need to spray goes in the box and we spray in the box. I've been at shops before that sprayed just on a table and their carpet over time became sticky because of the overspray. So just keep that in mind. Can you print? So 505 or K100, pretty much. I know I've been into shops that use screen printer spray. I haven't tried that. Seems aggressive to me, but you know, that's another option. I'd say try it. If it gums up your needles, don't do it. But biggest thing I'd say is don't spray it at your machine. That seems intuitive, but I've watched people literally with the hoop out spray it right in front of them, right on the machine, and that blowback gets on the machine, which, you know, a little here and there probably isn't going to mess anything up, but sticky stuff on moving parts, not a good idea. Can you buy at a local store? My local quilt shops all carry 505 in our area, so when I run out, that's where I go. I have not. I think Joann's might have the K100, but yeah, you can find spray adhesives at any craft store usually. So I just find a temporary spray adhesive. Try to avoid. I've even seen, there's an Elmer's one that I've seen at Walmart. I don't like it much, but in a pinch it works. All right. There was another question. Oh, is there a way to print all the PDFs or all the fonts without having to print them all? So get a PDF. Yeah, that's actually what I do. So if I go into the font, right here it says print all. Okay, print all. It's going to say it's going to make a massive file. Cool. Here, I just print to PDF and save it as a PDF file, and I'm good to go. So yeah, you can save it as a PDF. Just print to PDF, and all your fonts will be there. Anyway, yeah, the spray adhesive, I would just look for a temporary spray adhesive. I've seen it at Joann's. My local quilt shops all have it, at least in our area. Like I said, I've seen them at Walmart in the crafting section. Not in a pinch, it works just fine. All right, any other questions? If not, that will be a wrap for this week. Let's see. Next week, I'm aiming for Thursday. So I'm going to try to post hopefully Tuesday or Wednesday asking for questions. You can always email applications at Melco, and we'll see what we can get done for you that way. Let us know what sort of things you want to learn about. We do have some kind of specialized talks coming, one on stabilizer. There was another one that is now eluding me. All right, now I'm trying to remember, so I have to go look for it. Yeah, okay, so it's two parts. There's one all about stabilizer on the 17th, and on the 28th we're doing one about thread. So be sure to check those out. These DS talks we do weekly. So let me know what you want to learn, and we'll try to help it out. Where can you post questions? So I post asking for questions on Facebook in the different Melco groups. So there's a group called For the Love of Melco Embroidery Machines. What you'll see in those groups is this little header, this picture saying, hey, what questions do you have? And I posted in this group, which is kind of, Melco, that's the name of the group on Facebook. And then in the For the Love of Melco Embroidery Machines. And then there's another group, Melco Embroidery Machines for Businesses. I tend to post them in all three of those. And then you can always email applications at Melco. Okay? But that's where I look for questions. Like I said, I poll for them on Facebook. So, yeah, those are the groups I tend to poll in. Did get you a link to the different Melco communities that you can look into. All right. Well, I hope these are helpful for you. Trying to think. I'm not doing much. My kids started, I'm sure you noticed from my little example, back to school. All my kids started school this week, so it's been wildly fun with the pickup loop. Anyway, it should calm down. All right, well, you guys have a great weekend. I will talk to you again next week. See what questions you might have, hopefully on Thursday. And you guys have fun. I'll talk to you next week. Bye, everyone.